Welcome back to the Quick Tap. I'm Charlie Morgan, the Telegraph's senior rugby writer. Today I'm joined by England and Saracens fullback and 2021 Japanese top league relegation eliminator survivor, Alex Goode. How are you, mate?
Oh, that cuts hard. That's deep, mate. That's tough. I would like to say, survivor, we won. It may have been the only win of that season for the mighty NEC Green Rockets, but it was also the first win in 628 days for the franchise. So I took that as a massive plus and was pretty chuffed, to be honest with you. A few tears in the stand from the management as well, so big day.
Tears in the stand, bleaching your beard.
Yeah, you've gone there as well. I did have a bleach blonde beard. I'd like to say midlife crisis, but really it was just a COVID crisis, and I was pretty lonely in Japan, I think, and lost the plot. So, anyways, enough said on that. Over the next 3 weeks, we'll continue to dive into every detail of England's performances. This week, it's Australia. If you're watching on YouTube, please do us a favour, hit the like button, bring your comments, try and keep them positive if possible. A few negative ones from Charlie's family. But anyways, drop your comments and don't forget to turn on the notification bell for the good, the bad and the rugby channel.
Again, before we get stuck in, a big shout out to our sponsor, Continental Tyres. They're our go-to for premium tyres, prioritising safety, performance and grip. Strap in, here we go. So the anticipation of this one, Goodey, felt if it wasn't quite must win, it was an opportunity for England to banish any self-doubt with the kind of habit of close losses they've been getting into. And maybe even with the context of New Zealand beating Ireland in Dublin, it felt like the narrative might switch a little bit if England could be convincing, and it started really nicely.
Yeah, I think both those things. I think, New Zealand were really impressive against Ireland, and it probably put England's performance against New Zealand up a level. It's still one that got away and one they definitely felt they could have won and should have won, really. But I think looking at this week, to your second part, what a great start from England. It was everything we'd asked for, everything we're talking about on this pod, about making sure Cunningham South has loads of carries, your best ball carriers. Lawrence was carrying really well early on. There was a vibrancy and energy, and I thought that try for Cunningham South was one of the best England tries I've seen in years. I think 5 forwards in total there were handing the ball like the best French three quarters we've ever seen. Like gorgeous handling, swivel, spin, popping it off, keeping the ball alive. It was honestly reminiscent of Toulouse in their heyday, the 90s.
We touched on it last week, didn't we? And what a really clever kind of aspect of the All Blacks performance, how they starved England of two kind of really strong platforms for them in kick return attack and line out attack. And in that, for that first try, Bennell gets into a seam off a line out, England get impetus, and then it's the grubber from Smith to Lawrence that gets them in behind. For the second one, they get a bit of kick return going, don't they? And when they get quick ball, it's that identification of that from Genge to play at 9 and feed Smith, and then he's on top of sides. So it's two big areas that England are starved against the All Blacks, that they're sort of in the game straight away. And from 15-3 up, it looked pretty rosy.
Yeah, I think at that point, it looked like England were in a great place. They looked really confident. I thought the way they attacked it looked like a team who are high on confidence, who've been given that confidence from the coaches to go out there and play and not think about it too much, not held back. Because that try that Marcus sort of gets things moving with that kick through, it's not much on there. They tried to go into the seam, they had lost a bit of momentum, and he just identifies space and just puts it in there. Lawrence goes through, gets it, makes it a ball he wants to win. And off the back of that, the handling was excellent. But then even the second try, I think it was the penalty, like going for a tap penalty 5 yards out and scoring with a play, that confidence of not just taking the 3 and building a lead and trying to get away from them. They were a team that at that point looked very high on confidence, good, playing well and backing their instincts. And it's just went away from them from then on.
Nice little shift from Genge to Cunningham South for that second one. And then, as you're alluding to there, started to get away from them. No escaping the fact that if you concede 42 points and 5 tries at home, the losing of the game is in your defence and those lapses. We praised the defence last week, and despite a few comments below the line, I think we stick by that, don't we? Over the course of the 80 minutes against the All Blacks, that was an area of the game that gave England energy, especially when the phase count was building. In that regard, this felt like a big step backwards to me. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I learnt from the GBR's very own James Haskell is trying to take the rough with the smooth with the comments, so can't please everyone, as he likes to say.
But we'll take smooth comments, guys.
Yeah, in much fruitier comment language, he said, actually. But no, I thought defence last week was the backbone of where they got so close that it produced a lot of penalties, a lot of turnovers, a lot of mistakes on a New Zealand side, you say, who are very good in the ball handling and moving the ball, and really stretched us. It was a stark contrast this week. I thought defensively, obviously this is quickly after the game, but it felt as if not everyone was on the same page. Now, there's been a lot of calls already to get rid of this blitz defence. You've got to back it. And even more so, on the field, if one person doesn't back it and doesn't come up aggressively with everyone else, it will look bad. It will look awful, and you'll get pulled apart. And I felt too many times in this game, a couple of people were going hard, and then one person just doesn't commit, doesn't go for it. And that was sort of story for me. And then too often then the ball was too quick and they were getting offloads, and when you're in behind the team that wants to fly off the line and you're constantly going backwards, it's so hard to regain that control. But for me, some really good chances. Even when they went wide, they got a few tip-on passes, offloads. You get a team to a touchline, that is perfect, really. Like, even if they've made 10, 15 yards, they're on a touchline, you've got your whole line to press. You should be flying off the line. There is no excuse why there shouldn't be 2 men in the tackle, maybe 3 men in the tackle, and that's your chance to regain control of the ruck speed. And you can slow it down, you knock them backwards. It should be, 4, 5, 6 second ball, you get organised, and then you go again and you're back in control. It never felt like England were gaining control enough defensively, and some of that was with the hits, but other times it was just not getting 2 men in the tackle and slowing it down or stopping the offload. And I think that last try for me on that kind of summed up England, really. And Sleightholme was brilliant. He did so well when he came on. But defensively, it's something so different for him. I understand that he's new to this defensive system, but I think Slade goes hard and he needs his winger to come and commit. Even if they get that ball away, they've had to tip it on. It might go deep. It allows a scramble to get round and give him a chance. But he sort of comes, hesitates, and then goes to his natural instinct, which he does at his club week in, week out, to drift. And it's just a problem at that stage. And even then, Marcus, who was the best player on the pitch for me, was outstanding. Not best player on the pitch, best England player on the pitch. You can tell he's not had as much time at fullback. He probably should be sitting off a bit longer and waiting for Sleightholme to make that tackle and not making it easy for the offload. So, that just showed you that people weren't quite committed to what the blitz is about. It's not even a Joe El thing. It's not a Felix Jones. It's just knowing what you need to do and backing it. And it's a very hard thing for these wingers. It's really difficult, but it happened too many times across the board.
So first of all, Goodey, the connection between the wing and the fullback in that system, how important is that? And then second one, just how difficult is it to be flitting between these two systems, club, when you're playing one way for your club and then another way in a test setup?
Well, I think first and foremost, if we look at the transition between club and country, there's going to be different attack systems, different defence systems. The only way you get really good at them and better and it feels more natural is by spending time doing it. So time on the training field, time with the coaches talking about it, looking at examples, looking at images, and then in game more than anything is the most important. Now, for Sleightholme, Northampton, they do a very different defensive system, and their wingers use the touchline very old school, like use the touchline as your friend, give him the outside. He's obviously as quick as a gazelle, so anyone goes on the outside, 2 or 3 attackers, he can shift off and get across and make those tackles, and he's strong. So no one's even side on or off balance, he can make those tackles. The England system is very much more up and in and aggressive and keep coming. And for wingers, it's very unnatural to start doing that. It took our wingers a long time in pre-season to get used to it. I know as a fullback, it's very different. Having 19 seasons of doing one thing and suddenly you change, I found it very strange and different and unusual. And there are certain positions you feel like, no, surely I can't be coming here, but you have to commit. And actually, the worst thing you can do is not commit and hold off, because then it all falls apart. You're better off committing and making a mistake, but they throw it over the top, or they go deeper and they try and go around you, because all the scramble will then come and get it. But if you don't commit and you don't keep coming forward and you don't go for the hit, then it's a problem, because you're sort of selling everyone else down. Yeah, you're selling everyone down the river. And it's a bit like I said earlier, is that this defensive system is great if everyone's on the same page, like any defensive system. But even more with a blitz, if one person doesn't commit or two people don't commit, it exposes you so much, and then you're in a world of pain, and it's so hard to then regain the momentum. So that's pretty tough for club and country. But I think in those two examples you mentioned for Sleightholme, in terms of the first try and the last try, I said that last try, if he really commits, they might get that pass away and they might go on the outside, but they'll be deep. The pass might go to floor, they'll get slowed up, and the scramble will come. But by going up a bit, then hesitating and going across, it causes problems. And then in the first try, what it is the guy on your outside will always, the defender outside you will cover your outside. So if I go looking at the player in front of me and there's another player outside and he runs on my outside shoulder, it is Furbank, the fullback, or the person on the outside, his job to cover. So when Sua'ali'i, can't say it very well there, takes that outline, he should be getting hit straight away by Sleightholme, coming from his outside and hitting him man and ball. Not to say he's going to stop the offload, because he was exceptional at offloading the ball, but he'll stop it man and ball and knock him. And if he offloads, they have to go deeper again. But as soon as he gets on the outside, because Sleightholme probably doesn't come as far as he should do, and he feels a bit exposed because it's different to what he knows, as soon as he's on the outside, Furbank does the right thing and jams him. And 9 times out of 10, when he jams someone like that and they don't see it coming, there's no way they're getting the offload away. Or if they are, it's like a throwing the pass up in the air as like a hope. The ability for Joseph-Aukuso to just literally throw it over the top just as he sees him coming, take the hit, perfect offload, and allow Wright just to walk in is exceptional. But it comes from that first bit, is if he really trusts the system and knows it and it feels comfortable, he gets him and hits him, and he's no out ball, there's no going on the outside, he just gets buried, and Furbank then doesn't have to come in. But it's just a very tough system if it's something different to you. Very hard for the wingers. It feels like you're going really high, you're out of the line, and I know personally as a fullback I feel really compromised at times, but you just have to back it and go.
They'll have to be backing it next week with the Springboks coming to Twickenham for sure. We've touched on in there Joseph-Aukuso Sua'ali'i, debut for the Wallabies, first game of rugby union since school. Phenomenal. Jeff Parling spoke about his mentality in the week, just unflappable. Are these code hoppers, sometimes are they just built differently from a mentality sort of viewpoint? Obviously he's got the familiarity with union that someone like Sam Burgess might not have had, but he just seemed so calm.
Mate, I don't want to go over the top here, but it was the most impressive debut performance for a league convert that I've ever seen. It was just unreal, like mind-blowing. Now, I watch a lot of NRL, I love it, and I've seen him play a lot, and to say he's in the top 30 players maybe is probably about right. You know, maybe top 30 to 50 players. He's not like the top 5, top 10 really, but he's come in and he's been incredible. What he did was he galvanised the team, and it was such a focal point for them. Just incredible in sense of every time, it was clearly a plan, a clever Joe Smith plan. Was they were going to give him the ball a lot of touches, which is the toughest thing for a league convert usually, is getting enough touches, especially in the backs, obviously, like getting involved as much as they do in league. And even when he got hit, he was offloading. And it seemed as if all their players were just looking like bees around a honeypot, looking for that offload the whole time. The amount of times Kellaway got an offload, Wright got an offload, the Nines got an offload. Like, they were all buzzing through going, he's going to get his hands free. Even going backwards, he's going to get his hands free. And that was a problem, because that is a difficult thing for a blitz defence, is that if the ball keeps moving, you can't gain that control. And I just thought he was so good in that aspect. I was worried about the aerial game, but it wasn't even them using out wide for crossfield kicks or high balls. It was kickoffs where he was devastating there. I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but for me, as a first performance rugby league player, wow, I was like just in awe. I genuinely thought before the game, and I'm happy to be wrong on this, well, not happy to be wrong, but say I'm wrong, he was going to get put in a box, the blitz defence was going to like be all consuming, he was going to have no time, no space, get hit by men, and I couldn't have been more wrong. I think he got drilled once and still offloaded. Just so impressive.
Game changer for the Lions series in terms of interest for me, and there's a nice little bit of symmetry there because Israel Folau was the sort of was front and center in 2013. I wanted to talk about someone else who he reminded me of a little bit, not as far as what sort of profile of athlete he is or even how his manner or anything like that. I just remember Ben Teo doing interviews when he was with England, and he'd be asked sort of, "You looking forward to going to Murrayfield, or are you looking forward to going to Cardiff, and do you think the atmosphere will be hostile?" And he used to quite literally laugh at journalists and say, "I've played in State of Origin games, I played in the NRL for years, I'm fairly sure I'll be okay." And Sua'ali'i, there wasn't any sort of bravado showmanship about how he went about his business, but it was the calmness. And as you're right to point out, the familiarity.
Benny Teo and his mindset.
Yeah, maybe. But that was great. That was great for us journalists.
I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of the. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen some of the. Sorry, I don't know if you've seen some of that sort of Chasing Glory. I think it is the Rabbitohs when they won, but you get a sense of Benny Teo. Nothing flustered him, but when he went over the white line, he was an animal. Like he wanted to rip people's heads off. He was so calm, so chilled, like not bothered. But when it came to it, I mean, yeah, he was so up for it. I mean, he'd played in State of Origin, which, you know, is as ferocious as anything. It's sort of abnormal behaviour, I think, from players in how physically they can take themselves to a level that I've never ever experienced or seen in terms of how many tackles, how many hits, how physical, how brutal it is. It's sort of like the UFC of team sports for me. That it was as violent as it can get, but probably more disappointed when you said that sort of physical comparison. I thought you were going to say me and Joseph-Aukuso Sua'ali'i, so disappointed in that already. But yeah, he seemed unflustered. You know, he's going into something that he also doesn't know a lot about. Probably, like he's going to Twickenham. He's probably never played there. He doesn't know what it's like. And starting, it was quite loud and at you and stuff. And then it just sort of dissipated as they got into the game, and he started causing like so many problems. He was a constant problem for England, and as I said, kickoffs, offloads, strike running, and also galvanising a team who just got on his back and took it to England after that, and that was, you know, the catalyst for a lot of that victory.
I think he's going to get more influential as Joe Schmidt has more time with him, and Joe Schmidt sort of in the presser afterwards allowed himself a slight note of congratulation. He said, "Look, I think a lot of people in the week sort of were dwelling upon the risk that this selection might be. I hope now they're thinking about the opportunity, and it's a huge opportunity for the Wallabies heading towards Lions year because he looks very special." Where England have to get better ahead of this week against the back-to-back world champions in the Springboks, general game management. Now, it's just a sense, we're talking off air, Goodey, that collective awareness. So just going 15-3 up, maybe overplaying, but maybe even more worryingly, just switching off and maybe being seduced by the scoreline, but just going away from a tactical template that seemed to be working.
I think that game management often, you know, most of the time gets levelled straight at the 9s and 10s. And they're decision makers and they put the ball in front of you like that. For me, on first glance, I didn't think they did a bad job in that sense. I thought it was more a collective decision making and switching off moments. And I think, as you said, and what I mean by that is, you know, everyone has a decision to make of whether you offload the ball, how you present the ball. Should you go to that breakdown? Should you look to pass the ball? Should you just carry? Should you chase hard? Like it's a constant decision making process throughout the game, and I thought too many decisions probably were a bit loose. Like when you play Australia, the blueprint's been there for many years, but they come to England and we need to be in charge of the tempo, and that means physically dominate at the set piece and control it with our defensive effort, like squeeze them, kick chase, and not them. They are very skillful. They're allowed to move the ball. They've got great athletes. They're great attack. But this has been how we play against them, and we're a good matchup against them because usually we have a dominant set piece, a good kicking game. We can get after them and we can squeeze them defensively. And then when we have our attack, we're attacking in the right areas of the field. So we're attacking in their half, their 22, and we can go through the front door with our physicality. For me, I think decision-making across the board and switch-off moments, there were too many of them. And another example of those switch-off moments, we do a kick-off. They look like they're going back to 10 to kick it. I think one guy puts pressure on, and then Cunningham South and the rest of the guys in the back line start running back. The 10 gives it straight to Tom Wright, and Tom Wright just runs up the field. Now, it's because of that lag, because not everyone has focused on that one play. They're already looking to the next play, and as soon as you start looking past that play, you're out of the game. And that difference there is they then go from position of England kicking off, like squeezing them. They then go 90 yards, they kick in. England do really well to win the ball. Like the chase back's brilliant. 2 yards from their own line. They kick it off the field onto the 22, and Australia then go down the short side and score. Now, that is just the case of if you're switched on and you're flat, you hit Tom Wright and the rest of his back line 5 yards from their own line, and then next minute, even if they do kick the ball out, they're kicking it out to the 22, and you're on the ascendancy, and then you're squeezing them again, and you're going after them. You're letting teams off there, and that is like inexcusable in international rugby. You just can't have those moments. So for me, I thought 9 to 10s did a pretty good job in terms of moving it forward, making sure that they were playing in the right areas. The problem for me was like everyone just making little mistakes or people switching off. And that's the same switch off defensively, not quite coming up. Switching off on that open side, everyone running back already, looking for the next play. Like you can't have that international rugby because there are good enough players to exploit that.
At 30-28 up, England had sort of settled into, it was almost like a stalemate, a lot of box kicking, but England are sort of comfortable in that, especially with Tommy Freeman was seriously good under the high ball, won back a lot of ball for England, but things seemed to break down off the back of that. And then for Andrew Kellaway's try, it's almost a 14-point swing, isn't it? Because England go to Henry Slade, first receiver, who plays George Ford behind Bennell, and then you've got Ollie Lawrence coming in off a short line there. It's probably slightly too early. Pass doesn't go to hand. Andrew Kellaway scores. There are still these fine margins, but does it look a bit muddled as far as the thinking, just with how England are looking to exert pressure? Because it doesn't seem consistent. It doesn't seem like there's a consistent template that they're sticking to.
But for me, it's about, we can't just look at that in hindsight and go, oh, of course you should have kicked the ball. Was the decision to run the ball the right one? Yes. Could we have done it better? Execution? Of course. And that is just getting better at that and practicing it more and having more time together. But every decision you could go, oh, we dropped the ball, we should have kicked it. Well, hang on, it was a 6-on-1. Well, the decision was right, it's just execution, which is upskilling the players and making them better at it. Now, obviously, if you say this 15 games in a row, then you go, well, we probably won't run that play again. You know, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and getting the same result. But it was a good play, it was the right call for me. It's unfortunate, the execution. But there's still another 35 points that have gone already in defence before that. So it's not just one error there. The kicking game was great. Freeman was brilliant in the air, and we fought hard there. And I think also like the team are working their nuts off. Christ, they're working hard. And of course, not every England fan wants to hear that. That should be the blueprint for every England team. Every time you put a white shirt on, you should work hard and be physical. Now, I just think there's little areas that are creeping in that aren't allowing England to either finish teams off or get away from teams and force them to chase. Now, one week it seems to be that it's their attack. Next week it seems to be defence. Next week it could be the breakdown, the kicking game. Unfortunately, each week it seems to be something slightly different, and that's slightly more worrying. It's like they're focusing on one thing all week and they're getting really good at that, and then something else goes bad. And then they'll focus really hard on defence next week and it'll be really good. but the kicking game won't be as good, or something like that. And I just hope that doesn't fall into a pattern, because that's quite hard to get out of.
A couple of things I want to bring up, Goody. Well, first of all, a little bit of mitigation for England with Feo Boso on and off with a HIA, Laurie Lawrence on and off with an HIA, Tom Curry off permanently with an HIA. The best teams adapt to that, but that is tricky. I really wanted to big up the Wallabies big boys in the carrying stakes, Rob Villatini, Harry Wilson, Angus Bell. Those guys pack a punch, and they were exceptional. There's an incident that we've sort of disagreed on, which is Lukhan Salakaia-Loto coming into contact with Ollie Sleightholme, ex-Saints teammates, I think, but just on a high ball where, it's pretty gruesome. Ollie Sleightholme's tooth's gone flying, but you think it's fine, mate?
Well, you've answered it for me. I said to you, by the way, I feel extremely sorry for Sleightholme losing his teeth. Like, that's not nice at all, but like, people around me were calling for red cards, like life bans. It was like, I was a bit outraged by it, because I was going, well, like, it can't make himself shorter. He's 6'8". It's not his fault that he's 6'8". Like, obviously, if he was Harry Randall's size, then Sleightholme his head would just go over the top and he'd just trip him up. Now, was it a penalty? 100%. He knew exactly what he's doing. He goes across his line and tries to block him from getting a catch. But he doesn't go and like raise his elbow or like shoulder charge him. He just is a huge man running across his line to try and not let him have an easy catch, helping his teammate, which he's been taught to do for the last 15 years, but the rules have changed in the last week. And unfortunately, Sleightholme catches him. Now, people can tell me I'm wrong here, but like, he doesn't go out of his way to him. They are ex-teammates. From all accounts, from what I spoke to a few boys afterwards, they got on pretty well. So Sleightholme wasn't like, well, he was probably annoyed he lost his teeth, no doubt about that. We'll all be annoyed about that. But he's not going there, oh, he's a dirty player who's come after me. He's just tried to help his team. So, yeah, I didn't see it that way. I thought, yeah, some of the reaction I was getting around me was more desperation and, just not liking the fact that he was 6'8" and a big bloke, and it wasn't his fault completely.
Can understand the desperation at that point in the game, I think. Marcus Smith, let's finish here. He's created so much for England today, so much so that I think his kind of importance in how they're going was underlined when George Ford came on but went to 10. They kept Marcus Smith on the pitch for the entire 80 as they didn't do, obviously, last week. They're actually, I don't know whether you heard them, there were boos when Harry Randall and George Ford were shown on the big screen, I think purely because there was a concern that Marcus Smith was going to come off. Now, how important is he to this side now?
I was surprised, yeah. Furbank has been, a key player for England, I mean, since the sort of Ireland game. So that's only really, 6 games, I guess? 5 games? I don't know, you tell me. But it surprised me. But I wasn't surprised that Marcus was staying on. He was exceptional. He was England's best player. His instinct, his ability, just so good, and it's like he's constantly keeping the opposition on the back foot, whether it's kicking into the corners or the grubbers down the blind side. Like, he is just playing what's in front of him, and he's a player who's playing on confidence. Like, Steve and Richard Wigglesworth have obviously given him the keys to go. You're our number one. Play how you want to play. Keep the ball in front of the forwards, but play how you play. And my God, he's good. He is a genuine gem for England at the moment, and while they're sort of probably they're lacking a bit of cohesion in attack, he's producing moments that are just fantastic. So credit to him. I think he's been brilliant the last 2 weeks. As for the move to him to fullback, well, have him on the field wherever. I think it's probably a bit tough on Furbank, but the ball wasn't coming his way. But England weren't having lots of multi-phase for him to get involved in, so tough.
Maybe a slither of hope there in Smith for England, and they'll need it with South Africa up next, and we'll be there, Goody. Thanks for joining me, pal.
No, great to see you. It doesn't get any tougher than the double world champions coming to town, but not to say it's about me, but 2012, we lost to Australia, we lost to South Africa, New Zealand came to town, world champions, hadn't lost in the calendar year. Even my own dad said I should probably not play that game. And we somehow got a victory. I was a keeper and Manu Tuolangi. But we won that one, so there is hope.
Started and finished with you, mate. Why not? That's a wrap for today's episode. Thanks for watching and listening to The Quick Tap in partnership with Continental Tyres, our go-to for premium tyres. Whether on the rugby field or on the road, safety comes first. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review and follow us on social media for the latest rugby updates. It's the Springboks up next. We'll see you next week.